Hello everyone, Jeff from the Halcyon Masters, and today we are going to talk about the patch notes about update 1.20. Now, these just came out today, so we're going to review all of the information. And to begin, let's talk about skins. Now, I did an earlier video that went into depth and kind of the first impressions about the 4 skins that will be released in this second part of the season, but to review those quickly, the first one is Summer Party Saw, which is going to come out on the 27th. Next we have Broken Doll Alpha on the 29th. Then we have Fury Rona Tier 3 on August 5th. And followed up by Rhyme Tier 2, which will come out on August 12th. The next component of Update 1.20 is going to be the feature of bots. And bots come in 5 different difficulty levels, and SEMC has really put a lot of effort into making these more challenging and more intelligent. Now, levels 1 and 2 are going to be for beginners, and this will hopefully help build up the player base for new people coming into the community. And then the more difficult settings, being medium, hard, and very hard, are for players that have either been established and want to test out a new build, or aren't quite ready to do a 3v3 match with people. I'd be interested to see your comments about your thoughts on bots, so go ahead and leave them below. Now let's move into the general updates of the game. So one of the first updates is they're actually going to add some new announcements to the in-match commentator, and these include double kill and triple kill. So if you land that just amazing play where you take out 2 or all 3 of your enemies, you're going to hear those in-game. The next area which they made a change in is they're actually changing the healer minion in the jungle. So this is called a treant, and it's going to have a different look, so it's going to signify to the players that this particular minion has a different attribute in the game. And what you'll see is once killed, it's going to shoot out a projectile similar to the Fountain of Renewal, signifying that it's going to heal you up. Outside of the actual gameplay, we're also going to see some updates to the UI with some new menu screens and updates to the marketplace. To improve the queue experience, SEMC is now including a lower priority queue, and this is for players that either go AFK or are downvoted due to toxic behavior. And to wrap up our general updates, we have new quests, some which have been sponsored by the community. We'll get new tags for both guild and teams, and also more cards in our daily quests. I think they said everything with the exception of legendary chests will now get 1 more card, so that's something that you can look forward to. Experience sharing has been changed in 1.20 because in 1.19 the roamer was often underleveled as compared to their teammates and the enemy team. To make the roamer a little bit more viable in the mid-game, the experience share is now being changed from 85-40 to 65-60 when there's 2 heroes present, and 45-40 and 40 when there's 3 heroes present. To use the minimap now, it's a touch and hold instead of just a simple tap. The tactical pings have also been changed, so now you can ping 4 times within 8 seconds before cooldown is applied. Update 1.20 is chocked full of hero changes. There are 17 in total. While I'm not going to go into the statistics of every single hero change, I'm going to talk about which ones have been nerfed, which ones have been buffed, and some of the heroes with the biggest and most notable changes. So to get started, let's talk about Koshka. Koshka has not been a meta character for quite some time, so it's good to see that she's getting a little bit of love. And as the update, what they've done is rebuild her kit. They're moving her from a bruiser into more of an assassin, and to do this, they've changed her heroic perk. Most notably, she no longer gets bonus crystal damage for every hero that she hits. Instead, she gains +2 movement speed, which will allow her to get into the fight and out of the fight a little bit faster. Another big change to Koshka is that she no longer receives a cooldown reduction when she attacks an enemy. Instead, all of her abilities now have shorter cooldowns. I expect we'll see Koshka in the meta, built more with a crystal path instead of the typical bruiser and tanky character that she has been in the past. Petal is the second hero to have a notable change. First of all is her trampoline now has a Vox-like dash, so you can pick the direction that you want Petal to trampoline. This will help you both engage and disengage when need be. The second big change to her kit is talking about her ult. No longer is it a single ultimate, but you now have up to 3 charges on her minions, and you can choose to explode each minion independently. In addition to Koshka and Petal, Adagio, Arden, Finn, Ozo, Jewel, Rona, Blackfeather, Scarf, and Fortress are all receiving some sort of a buff. For Adagio, he's getting a little bit more of a heal bonus based on his health ratio. Arden is getting some additional health barriers, and his Blood for Blood is going to have the crystal bonus added back in. Finn's Forced Accord is getting some more damage in the second and third point. Ozo's 3-Ring Circus and Acro Bounce are both getting a little bit of love, with a crystal ratio and reduced cooldown. Rona gets a little bit of love with some additional fortified health while she's in her Red Mist. Jewel's Big Red Button now comes up a little bit sooner. Blackfeather's bonus crystal damage from his Heartthrob stacks are now a little bit stronger, and his on-point damage has been rescaled to include a weapon power scale. Scarf, a little weak in 119, now has Fan the Flame crystal ratio up by a percentage and a little bit more damage over time from his goop. And last but not least, Fortress Attack of the Pack cooldown has been reduced across all 3 levels. It should be no surprise that Lyra is receiving a nerf in 1.20. Her armor and shield are going to be reduced, her Imperial Sigil is now more reliant on building health items, and the Bright Bulwark now has a shorter duration, making it so that you need to time it a little bit more appropriate. That has been reduced from 4 seconds with a 6-second overdrive to 2.5 seconds across the board. Taka received an indirect nerf because he was able to use his abilities while stunned. This is no longer the case, so don't expect him to be quite as slippery as he has been in the past. 4 heroes have also received balance changes that I think are neither a nerf or a buff. These include Catherine, Vox, Lance, and Rhyme. Catherine's bubble has been reduced from a 6-second to a 4-second ability, but yet damage is up, and cooldowns are down. Lance's weapon ratios have been reduced from 160 to 145%, but they traded that with an increase to his Scythian wall damage. This moves Lance away from a weapon path more into a roam and protector path. Vox is receiving a slight balance change so that he's more geared towards a crystal mage instead of a heavy weapon power mage. And lastly, Rhyme has been tweaked so that his initial damage from the Winter Spire is up, but the shatter damage is down. This makes Rhyme's damage potential a little bit more consistent. Our last section is the item changes. Let's start off with the Stormguard banner, and this is a buff to the item because they're reintroducing the true basic damage at each level. So this is a nice little buff that'll help out roamers across the board. Also, that translates into a stronger Storm Crown as well, and that's going to give a roamer a 30% cooldown, which is a nice perk, 4 more energy recharge, and 200 health. The next item to get a little bit of a bonus is the Flare Gun. So instead of 1 flare, you now have 2 flares with a slightly higher cooldown. This also translates into a little bit of a buff for Contraption, because it's going to increase the charge time for consistency with the flare gun, but also increase the cooldown from 35 to 40%. Finally, we received new contracts in 1.19, and those are the Protector, the Dragon Blood, and the Iron Guard contract. They were a little bit weak, and in this patch, they're buffing them a little bit more. So the Protector contract now gives a barrier to all allies. The Dragon Blood contract has increased the damage from 75 to 100 damage, and the Iron Guard contract also works with killing the large minion in the lane, and it has a 10 energy recharge. So if you have a roamer that is working with your mage in the lane, they're going to get an energy regeneration off of that, which is pretty nice. Our next item is Clockwork, and this one has been redesigned a little bit more to be focused on mages. So it now has an Amplify Crystal Power ratio of 25%, and its cooldown speed has been reduced from 50 to 40% with a price increase. This will be pretty interesting because now it's moving the Clockwork from a utility item, which some roams would often pick up, into more of a mage-specific item. Now on the weapons side of the house, we have Breaking Point and Bonesaw that both receive some changes. On Breaking Point, the cost has gone up, but the weapon power has been increased from 50 to 55 to match the heavy steel that builds into it. Bonesaw has received a little bit of a nerf in this patch. They've decreased the weapon power from 30 down to 15 to match the piercing shard, and the armor shred is actually reduced by 1, so instead of 7 stacks of 7%, it's now 8 stacks of 6%, and the duration of each one of those stacks has been reduced by about half, so from 6 seconds to 3 seconds. Well, that covers all of the patch notes for 1.20. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up, or subscribe to my channel to receive notifications on when we push out some new content. Thank you again, and we'll see you on the Halcyon Fold.